I know what question's coming. It's a great question. I love
It's
it. That one.
what we talked about.
It's 70 AD.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I got it.
Yeah.
I love that. Only because I deal with it. You love things you do all day long, man.
Yeah.
Not all day long, that's exaggeration. I certainly didn't do this stuff. Most of the time, we didn't have internet, in the Oregon days.
Yeah.
But what is perfectly obvious, that when you've got a classroom out there of the whole world, and the arguments are painful, you think, goodness, children, sit down, shut up, listen. It's just agony. That's why most professors, so-called, are not doing that stuff. So I found it this year, I've learned a lot. Okay, you had a good lunch. Did she drive you safely in that limousine first?
I drove.
You drove. Oh, yeah, I didn't know that woman drive. That's very unfair. Women are good drivers. You have brothers and sisters. I've asked you that before. Little ones. You're the eldest.
I'm the oldest, yes.
Okay. All right, so actually we didn't pray this morning, so let's pray this afternoon instead of this morning. Our Father in heaven, we thank you again for this day, the privilege of living in this extraordinary land of freedom where we can discourse on great issues of faith without fear of retribution from the law. We pray for each one of these students, hold out their futures, and of course for Carlos too, before you, that you would guide them and direct them as they yield to you, and give them a satisfying career in ministry and whatever else goes with it, the art business or whatever it happens to be. We pray your blessing, richest blessing on them through the power of your Son and His Spirit accompanying them wherever they go. And again, we offer this prayer in Messiah's name. Amen. Okay. It reminds me that if you want to read up on how did we get from A to B, I mean, that's a fair question. How do we get from the New Testament to where we are? I mean, that's a fair question, isn't it? How do we get to 30,000 denominations? Not that people are thinking about that. Keegan's book is really quite brilliant. He's a Baptist boy. His parents are Baptist Bible teachers and writers, and they're both of them converted to our view of one God. I'm not talking concretely, I'm here. This goes to me. It's easy to say that. It means something more to you than our friends here who don't understand all that properly. But his parents are both absolutely on board with the one God and non-pre-existent Jesus. And Keegan's written this book called The God of Jesus in the Light of Christian Dogma. And he's, particularly in the history, he's very good. So down the line, do keep educating yourself, by the way. I think I'd recommend that. Don't cease to read when you get out there, because your reading is who you are, and you'll preach better for that. The introduction to my commentary, the quotes in here, it's 40 pages of stuff, but the quotes are absolutely amazing to me, the quotes. Where historians admit the whole thing went wrong in the 2nd century. It goes wrong once you say Jesus was alive before he was born. He's essentially not human anymore. He's a mixture of God and man. You know how complicated that is. Nobody understands. But are you human if you're pre-human? How can you be human if you're pre-human? It doesn't make any sense, actually. If you're an angel before you start, then you're an angel. You're dressed up as a man, if you like, but you're still an angel, aren't you? So the JWs are forced to say that God put the memory of Jesus being Michael, He put the memory back on at the baptism of Jesus. Well, I didn't read that anywhere. In other words, Jesus didn't know he was Michael the Archangel until at baptism. God put the memories. See how bad that is? It's really garbage. That makes me appreciate what these folk did. Not that they were perfect. This is not a perfect denomination. You can point to flaws. Obviously, we have to be realistic. So I think what they regained in terms of the gospel of the kingdom and getting Jesus identified as Messiah was huge. It's just very great. Quotes in here at the beginning of this translation, I think, are quite remarkable. That one from Winford Reed. William Winwood Reed, British historian and philosopher, said this: the church diverged in discipline and dogma more and more widely from its ancient form, till in the 2nd century, the Christians of Judea which faithfully followed the customs and tenets of the 12 apostles, were informed that they were heretics. Can you imagine it? The original Jewish Christians who followed Jesus, in the 2nd century, they were kicked out of the church. And you would be now. You would have been now. That's awful. And the church fathers actually say, this church father circle, like Justin Martyr and Tertullian, and later on others who made these creeds, they said, we don't like the Jewish idea of God. What we need is something that's going to be more popular. We don't want the polytheism of Greeks, but we don't want that monotheistic, Unitarian monotheistic thing of Jews. We don't want that. We want something between. You see how clever that is? It's a hodgepodge of Bible and pagan philosophy. But the amazing thing that Carlos and I have learned over the last year particularly is that they admit that. They say that. Well, guess what they don't like is the creed of Jesus, the Shema. Amazing. It's a confession. When people liars eventually, by the way, give themselves away. If you lie, you give them away. So that talk by Keegan, I didn't mention the name of it, it's called The God. If you're down the line, you should try to read that as a little homework. I think you'll find it instructive. Try to meet if Keegan comes to do a class. I don't know whether he will be able to do that. If he does, try to take a class with you. He would encourage him to. You like him. He's a great guy. But I thought that quote from Winford Reed was amazing. So the early Jewish Christians who recited the Shema, as you have learned to do, they were kicked out of the church as heretics. And so during that interval, a new religion had arisen. Christianity conquered paganism, but paganism had corrupted Christianity. This is what you represent here, right? These people said, we protest this orthodox thing. We'll come back to the original, faith wants to live it. The legends which belonged to Osiris, who was the mate of Isis, I think, and Apollo, had been applied to the life of Jesus. The single deity of the Jews, not me, this is the quote, the single deity of the Jews had been exchanged for the Trinity, which the Egyptians had invented, and which Plato had idealized into a philosophic system. The man who had said, why do you call me good? That's Jesus, right? Jesus said, why are you calling me good? There's only one who's really good, absolutely good, is God. You see, I used to read that in Armstrong days as, why are you calling me good? Are you sure you realize that I am God? That's what went through my brain. I was sitting there in the class in the Bible college in California. When we came to that verse, I remember that's the way I processed that. It's absolutely wrong. He's saying, why are you calling me good? Don't you realize that only one is absolutely good, and that's God? That's the Unitarian thing. I didn't get it. Anyway, there's none good but one, that is God. How do you explain, he says, that Jesus himself had been made a God or a third part of one? That's profound. That's their story. They often do better. Anyway, keep some reading going if you can, because it's a bit alarming to see people only texting. I'm sure you do read, but I think we must read to be educators. If you want to be effective in the pulpit, you must be a reader. And that's clear. Okay, so let's go a couple of things this afternoon, and then if you don't have my translation, I want to get you one. Do you have it? Somebody have it? Excuse me. Just so you don't forget me entirely as you cut it. That's you. Yeah, and I can get you extra ones if needed. Yeah, and there are mistakes in there. There are some typos. It's second edition, but basically it's the stuff that you've learned in the college. Okay, point one, the gospel of God. Let's do this. We said it's remarkable how the kingdom of God is obviously what Jesus preached. And then we went to Paul and we said, Paul preached it too, right? Isn't that unifying? Isn't that easy? There's one gospel about the kingdom. The other way of doing the same exercise is to say, what does the gospel of God mean? So look at Mark 1:14-15. What have you got Jesus doing there? What is, we can use Madison as our reader. We like Mark 1:14. What have you got there, please, ma'am?
Mark 1:14 says, after John was arrested, Jesus went to Galilee, preaching the good news of God.
Yes, stop right there, thank you. And then he says the kingdom of God is at hand, right? So what is the kingdom of God gospel? It's obviously the gospel of God. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, it doesn't give any higher authority than God himself. God has the right to speak to the world, right? This is what I created this thing for. So he came preaching the gospel of God and saying, the script is, the kingdom of God is coming, it's at hand. It's not exactly here in the full sense, at least, but it's always near. And you ought to repent and to believe that message. Isn't that amazing? Because out there, you will not hear that preached. You have to believe that Jesus died for your sins. I get that. But here, Jesus begins by saying, you ought to, it's a command. You have to believe that gospel of God about the kingdom, isn't it? I like that because it's by believing each other that we establish relationship. You know, he tells us that his parents' grandmother was into art. I think he's lying. These are elementary lessons, but they're quite profound. We believe each other. Like Barbara said, you know, the bridge is done. Well, you haven't seen our bridge. The bridge is huge telephone poles, weighs 3.5 tons across our creek. It's gone, she said. What? It was taken away 200 yards in the water. The water got rose. It carried that whole thing up. I believed her because you don't think your wife's just lying. So then you can say, well, what degree of improbability do we have to have before we don't believe it? If I say to you, listen, I had lunch with Jesus after he came back from death, why would I think Peter's lying? See, that's faith. I believe that. Because the alternative, say to your atheist friends, the alternative is more difficult. What in the world was Luke writing most of the New Testament, much of it? What's he trying to get out of this? Making money out of me? No. He's writing awfully well about something. He obviously believes it. I believe it because the alternative is impossible. Because atheism to you and me is just nonsense. I can't even, I get angry at atheists. You know, I look at our dogs. There's so much character. The bird song, who cooks for you? I mean, there's so much going on. Isn't there? How could you be an atheist? This is stupid. But I believe that Acts 10:41, when they say, we had lunch with Jesus after he came back from death. What? How often do you have that? Have you seen people come back from death? I haven't. That is staggering. If anybody couldn't get excited about that, right? There's something wrong with it. But unfortunately, church members get in a rut sometimes. You know, they go through the motions of showing up on Sunday, but they've got to keep excited and reading his Bible. Okay, so that's the gospel of God, Mark 1:14. All right, now you say, well, where else do we find the gospel of God in the New Testament? Starting with Mark 1:14. Oh, by the way, I'm using Bible Works. You know, you must get Aunt Bessie to give you Bible Works. I'm using a Bible Works. Sarah tells me it's Bible Works. You must have that software. It's probably, how much does it cost, Carl?
A lot.
No, I'm sorry about that. I put a burden on you, but you are the professionals in this, people, and you really, you know, Strong's Concordance is okay, but life's too short for that. So I mean, I just typed that in. You probably gave me 60 translations. I can look at it in German and French and Spanish, and, you know, whatever I want to do, just like that. So ESV has now, after John was arrested, Jesus came together proclaiming the gospel of God, and so on. It's utterly clear in any translation. Then I've got it in Hebrew here. Anyway, the rest. Now I'll go to Romans 1:1. What have we got there? Romans 1:1. I'll read this one. Paul, a servant of Jesus Christ, called to be an apostle, separated to the gospel of God. Well, are you going to say, well, this is a different gospel of God than mine? It's silly, isn't it? It's a madhouse out there. You honestly, you don't have to be very smart to see this. Once you see it, that's why, you know, I do this constantly when I walk into one day. I'm blind. Are you shocked? Of course not. I want to say these people out here are blind. Now, it doesn't mean we curse them or be arrogant. That's not the point. But you're dealing with a very blind world, and you have to learn to be very patient. You will, because you're all, you know, patient people, straight on. Okay, so that's Romans 1:1. Gospel of God. I get it. That could be about the kingdom. Why not? That makes sense. Then you go over to the next one, which is Romans 15:16. That I should be a minister of Christ, Jesus. Again, read yourself into the text. That I, Kyle, etc., I'm a minister of the gospel of Christ to the Gentiles in this case, ministering the gospel of God. Beautiful. You're a minister. You're a servant we talk about government ministries. They're doing a job. You're on the job ministering the gospel of God. One of the translations says BBE, that's, what's that? Bible in basic English, right?
Basic Bible.
Yeah, it says doing the work of a priest in the good news of God. You are priests and kings. You're training. You're going to rule the world. Yes, she's going to rule the world. It's staggering. I haven't got my mind around this. I've come to this only recently. I didn't get this. But I say, if God wants to make you rule the world, let him do it. Isn't that wonderful? After all, what talent is he given? Or what talent you got that God didn't give you? None. You've got all these talents from your DNA and your own experience. You have to work with them. God wants you to have 10 cities and mother all these people. Go. Isn't that great? I think that's quite an extraordinary thing, but we haven't preached this. Somebody in the Church of God, high up, several years said to me, we've got to rule over. And it occurred to me that these people haven't had that part yet. That's reasonable. A denomination cannot get everything back in place in one generation. Hopefully we can improve on that, right? I committed a heresy, you didn't even know it. I committed a terrible heresy by saying that you're the Israel of God. I believe that, and Joe does too. We got over it. But they tried to get rid of me. College, a couple of individuals who didn't believe there was the devil, so that's another subject. Another subject, which is pretty clear in this college now. But anyway, I wasn't to say that you are Israel. If I say Israel, I'm only to say future national Israel. I believe that with a passion. But having said that, you are now the people of God, right? It's obvious, all that Exodus 19:6 stuff about priests and kings. In 1 Peter, it's you. You're the chosen one. You're the elect. Don't give that identity away. It's a major topic, actually. And you could sneak this in and get away with it now. You're not foaming the mouth when I said that. So we're all responsible, I think, for leaving the place better than when we arrived, right? We're trying to improve, do better. All right, so that's the one in Romans 15:16. That was framing the text there, gospel of God, obedience to faith. Down then, the next one would be 2 Corinthians 11:7. You have them in your margin, ready to go when you're in Africa and they say, get up and talk to us. You can do a little sermon on this, something like that. 2 Corinthians 11:7. How about this? Did I commit a sin in abasing myself that you might be exalted? Because I preached to you the gospel of God for nothing. Paul is in a very strong position. You can get paid to do it on that occasion. Isn't that brilliant? And if that suits you, that's fine too. If you want to do this for free, you can do it. You get paid, that's fine too. But what he was doing was preaching the gospel of God, God's gospel. It's perfectly obvious. It's like, let's argue about USA. Is that United Stamp Association? I don't think so. It's at that level. What I'm trying to go over is that level of stupidity, right? Now, handle that with care because we don't become arrogant, But remember that you're preaching to people who just haven't understood this. I have to bear that in mind. Okay, 2 Corinthians 11:7, that's it. Then, next one, 1 Thessalonians 2:2. Have you got that for us, Carl? 1 Thess, chapter 2, verse 2. What do you got there?
1 Thessalonians 2:2.
Yeah.
But though we had already suffered and been shamefully treated at Philippi, as you know, we had boldness in our God to declare to you the gospel of God in the midst of much conflict.
And you say, my goodness, I get it, don't you? Isn't that brilliant? I read the rest of the verse. You're going to be persecuted for this. You're going to get the narrow-headed treatment. I guarantee. It's evil out there. And it'll come from Christians, like the Pakistani, new person in Pakistan, who's being persecuted by Assemblies of God people. Earlier, a former person that your dad would know about was killed. What about people? I'm afraid that is so. The devil is very, very furious with you. Got to go. That's why you have to pray, step gently. Because he's done a lot of work to try to keep this under wraps, the immortality program, it seems. So I love that. 1 Thessalonians 2:2. On the contrary, we had courage through God to speak God's good news in spite of a lot of opposition, although we'd already suffered and were publicly insulted, as you know. Can you stand that? Can you handle people tearing you off a strip on email? Maybe you've had that already on some blogs. I don't know if you have, but you'll encounter. Various translations. I've got, 7, 8, 9 translations right in front of me. I've got the Hebrew version. It doesn't matter. The information skills and opportunities you have are huge. I mean, you're the generation that can handle a cell phone. I can barely get myself, I don't know when I'm driving, I have to pull over, work it out. As for this other stuff, these magic machines, I haven't even got one. I'd probably get confused about them. But you can do it because you're technically savvy. Okay, 1 Thessalonians 2:8. Jacob, you got that one for us, please?
2:8.
2:8.
Yep.
Yeah, what's up?
So we cared for you because we loved you so much.
Yes.
We were delighted to share with you not only the gospel of God, but our lives as well.
Isn't that touching? We love you so much. We care for you so much. And you will fall in love with the people in ministry too. You will. You'll feel this bond of affection, obviously. Because we were well pleased to impart to you not only God's gospel, but also our own selves. You know the word soul means self, don't you? It's not an immortal soul. You know that. You know that. You're a soul. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 selves in this room. That's easy. Nothing to do with an immortal soul, which is pure Plato and paganism. So something has to stir in you in regard to your friends who got this wrong, by the way. We have some responsibility, I know exactly how that works, to try to alleviate them from the nonsense they've been taught, because it could be dangerous. See, I don't see God intervening now and judging very clearly. He's not. He did in some places in the Bible. He struck people dead, didn't he, for touching the ark when they shouldn't have. Right now, he's kind of hands off a little bit, but we still have this responsibility to teach as people will listen. And they'll support you too. I can guarantee you. They will love you for it. Then 1 Thessalonians 2:9. Now, Madison, if you got that one, the next verse. 1 Thessalonians 2:9. What's that?
We remember our labor and hardship, brothers, working day and night so that we would not burden any of you. We preach God's gospel to you.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful, isn't it? It's obvious for Paul. He knows what that is. It's Mark 1:14, the gospel of God. God's kingdom. And then, okay, Kyle, 1 Peter 4:17. What do you see there?
1 Peter 4:17. For it is time for judgment to begin at the household of God. And if it begins with us, what will be the outcome for those who do not obey the gospel of God?
Whoa. Obey. Are you hearing that preached clearly? I hope so. An awful word, obedience, right? As I said to you earlier, the Bible is about how God speaks and nobody listens, right? That's the Bible story. It's not any way different in the new from the old. In the old, it's got to do what God says. In the new, it's what God says through the Son. However, there is a difference in covenants. You can obey the old covenant and disobey the new. If you're going to tell me I'm going to teach Sabbath keeping, you're in disobedience to the new covenant, but not the old. That takes a bit of working out. Think not that I came to destroy the law and the prophets. I didn't, Jesus said. But I did come to fulfill. What does that mean? He actually disobeyed Moses in terms of divorce. You know that. They say, well, Moses said we could have a divorce for whatever reason it was. It wasn't entirely clear. And what was Jesus' response? He'd say, yeah, that's the law of Moses. That's it. I'm favored. No. He said, Moses allowed you a divorce for whatever the Saturday was. But I'm telling you, go back to Genesis. You see that? Isn't that brilliant? Jesus is actually going back to another part of the law. But he's setting Genesis against Moses, rightly. Moses was a concession to their weakness. So you could have under Moses' law divorces for lesser reasons, whatever they were, right? However, Jesus said, wait a minute, no. Let's go back and look at Genesis. It's also by the law. Moses allowed you, this is Matthew 19, you'll be asked about this, allowed you divorce for certain reasons. And by the way, if you're divorced, you're not married, you get it? If you're divorced, you're not married. I'm saying this against the school that says you cannot have a second spouse during a lifetime period, right? That ain't right. Sorry. If you're divorced, you're not married. In 19, Jesus was asked about, it's a diversion, but it's to do with the important part of the law. He was asked about divorce, not separation. They didn't say, can we have a separation for any reason at all? No. That's quite different. We have a divorce. And he said, no divorce except for ongoing, unrepented porneia, which would be sexual activity outside of marriage, right? Broad term. Then you've got a divorce. So if you've got a situation where you've got completely unrepentant activity of that nature, then you can have a divorce and then you can get married again. Yes. Now, maybe something like that. We've been a little bit too tough. And the other thing is where we said, that if you're a minister and you're in a second marriage, let's say you were married a second time 30 years ago, and now you can't be a pastor forever. That's wrong. I think so. Cannot hold that against a person, right? They've repented, now they're solidly married, right? And you stop there. Otherwise, in your church, when people come to you, you'd have to go back and figure out who were they originally married to. In Armstrong, they did that. And you had tragic situations. People who were never able to be married again, they said they'd been divorced twice before they came to the church. They were told, you've been married once, that's it. Well, that led to suicide, depression, all sorts of things. So that's a subtle issue, and I think the Church of God has it about right, possibly a little bit tough on who've been in the second marriage can never be a minister. I wouldn't go there. But you did when, 30 years ago is not relevant now. Anyway, however, you cannot say, my wife's a believer, I'm a believer, we're not sinning, but we're getting divorced. Paul there said, if you should separate, heaven forbid, then you should not marry somebody else but get reconciled with me. Isn't that beautiful? If you've got an unbelieving mate, the situation's different. If your unbelieving mate decides to leave, then you don't have to chase them around the Roman Empire to keep them married together. And I think you're probably free to remarry. That's a little bit more debatable, but is that pretty easy? Because that will come up, and then you consult the best people you can to get advice on that. All right, that's 1 Peter 4:17. Those who refuse to obey the gospel of God, repent is a command, right? Believe the gospel of the King. That's a command. That's not an option. You obey. Say, yes, I believe. When they believed Philip, they obeyed Philip, right? Philip said, you've got to believe this kingdom gospel. And they did. So they got baptized. That's all good about baptism. That's not. Men and women alike. Beautiful. Founding text of this whole movement. Acts 8:12. I asked in Sunday school last week if anybody knew it, did it? Bless their hearts, church. I think it's a beautiful text. When they believe Philip, so you have to, hey, I like this kingdom. Oh, that's great. I'm in. Cut me in. Fine. Get baptized. Men and women. There's baptism in water, at which point they receive the Spirit. But actually, on that occasion, they had to get the apostles to come over and lay hands on them. You know why? It's in Acts 8:12. They didn't get the Spirit right there because they were the first Samaritans to become believers. Special occasion. It required the apostles to go over and lay hands on them. You see that? An authority thing. But subsequently, now, what are you going to do now? Okay, we baptize somebody at Cornerstone. Where's the apostle to come lay hands on? Silly. I don't have apostles like that. So that's changed. But that was the first account. Then Cornelius, very important. These questions come up all the time. Cornelius, is a first Gentile, other than the Samaritans who were also Gentiles in some sense. But Cornelius is a Gentile. So what did Peter do? He preaches the gospel to them. And then he says, who can forbid water? Let's argue about that, let's not. Who can forbid water that I can baptize them? And he commanded them to be baptized in water. Let's if you go and follow your dad with this stuff that you do abroad, you'll be amazed at how confused it is. None of that is not brain-breakingly difficult. But the way international people say, oh, Peter said, whoops, I made a mistake. They do. They said that. Peter is supposed to say, whoops, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have said that because John baptized in water, but I'm baptizing in spirit. So Peter said, I got it wrong. It's awfully bad. Okay. That's the list. Then how many texts do you have there? How many number? Oh, one more. No? That's it, I think. That's it. Last one I gave you 2 Corinthians 11. Did I do 2 Corinthians 11:7? I did, right?
Yeah.
And 1 Thessalonians 2, we did that one. And 1 Thessalonians 2:8, we did that. That's what we did. 1 Thessalonians 2:9. Did we do 2:9 of Thessalonians? We did. We got that one too. 1 Peter 4:17. We did that one. I think that was probably all. Yeah. How many texts have we got then?
8.
Oh, number of Jesus. That's nice. 8, 8, 8. No, I don't know if that means anything, but it's fun. Mnemonic word. Okay, so that is another way of unifying the New Testament, which you're doing. Make this book accessible to your folks. All right. This one. What I want to do now is give you an article to show this is not Church of God stuff that you're getting and nobody else ever thought. What we're saying here is, take one of these, please. Give one to Carl Russ. I found this in one of the journals. Eugene Stilson did a good job collecting some of the journals over the years. They were in the library. And this one is absolutely brilliant. Yes. Yes, of course. Absolutely. There you go, sorry. It's just brilliant. I found this and I've kept it ever since. The meaning of Abraham believed God in Romans 4:3. Well, that's clear to you, isn't it? Abraham believed God. When they believed Philip preaching the kingdom, right? Abraham believed God. And, you trips to Canada, you got up, I'm going to follow God here. I'm coming all the way to Georgia, wherever that is. And here you are. Yep. You obeyed the call. You did. You obeyed the call. That's great. And you sacrificed whatever to do this, which is great. So the text here is brilliant. Romans 4:3. Abraham believed, which obviously means obeyed, doesn't it? No faith without obedience, right? The obedience of faith, the obedience of faith, the obedience of faith. Easy, very easy. He said, yes, I believe God, and I'm now going to give up my family and my country, all the things that are dearest to me in a sense, and get up and go. I don't even know where I'm going. That's Hebrews 11. You don't know where you're going. You haven't seen it. Really, you've got the vision of the kingdom, but you're Abrahamic people. Then he says, Abraham's faith and propositional revelation. I don't like these long words, but you make a proposition and you believe it. Right? Propositional revelation. God revealed this. God spoke, God's gospel, Abraham believed it. For his argument that Abraham was justified by faith. Okay, talk about justification. Long word. Justified means you're right rather than wrong. That's all it is. You justify the right margin, don't you? Make it straight rather than crooked. You're right, you're straight, you're not crooked. Not sinless. The fact that you believed God and his gospel puts you in the righteous character. Not sinless. We're not sinless, I see that. But you're right rather than wrong. However, if you don't believe in the gospel, you've never heard of it, it's hard to be right. So the devil's trick is to withhold the gospel from people. He doesn't want that out there because they might believe it and get saved. So the devil's operation is to keep that gospel of the kingdom away from the people as far as he can. So for his argument that Abraham was justified, made right by faith, in your margin there and the article you might want to write Isaiah 53:11. Isaiah 53:11 won't go to it, but I'll tell you what it says. It says, by his knowledge, referring to Jesus, by his knowledge, my servant will make people right. Justified. Jesus, by his knowledge, not only his death and resurrection, by his knowledge, Jesus is busy making you right rather than wrong. Paul selects as a textual base, I quite like that, Genesis 15:6. Madison, could you please open the Bible to 15:6 and read it for us? Genesis 15:6.
Abraham believed the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness.
Isn't that beautiful? That's on the right-hand side of the ledger, credit, right? Like credit, obviously. I like that. I like the simplicity of that. Abraham said, I get it. I understand, God. You got a plan. I'm with it. I'm on board. Count me in. And God said, you're my man, my woman. And you're there on the right side of the ledger. You've got credit. You have credit. You don't say, well, do not follow me or nothing. No, you did. You did something good. All fathers praise and mothers praise their children. Don't they? You do. And God praises you to the degree we do right. Because you decided to do right.
It's in the bank.
It's in the bank, right? But you had a part in getting that in the bank. Against Calvinism. Calvinism, with its doctrine of double predestination, is hideous. Double predestination says that it's all been mapped out before. So God has decided longer that you're going to hell forever.
Sucks to suck.
What's that? I'm sure it was very subtle. No, that's horrible, isn't it? Calvin believed that. Calvin was mad at Anabaptists, you guys. He murdered Servetus. He murdered them. Public doesn't know this. Why not? Wake up, public. Don't they read anything? What is this? You're in a Calvinist church, and the guy you are swearing by murdered Servetus by burning him with green sticks. They chose the sticks, green wood. So it would take a little bit longer to burn. And about half an hour later, he suffocated. I nailed him up on a stake and then lit the fire. Well, I was burning wood for 3 days. I watched fire very carefully. It's horrible. When you get too close to it, it's awful. You can't get anywhere near. Sometimes I would go there without my gloves. I'd forget my gloves. I couldn't push any of those. I couldn't get near them just to touch it. I get my gloves. I could throw the logs on. They burned Calvin in the name of Christianity. Burned this man. What? If you're not moved by that, you are moved by it. But it's worth reading a little bit, right? It's shocking.
There's also a way you can take it to the bank, they say.
Yes.
Take it to the bank.
Yes,
So
that's right. Absolutely.
God is
You've got that credit. And you've done something. You've worked out your own salvation, but God is at work in you, and you have worked out your part of it too. You haven't earned it. That's not what we're doing. You can't earn salvation, but you can resist it, and obedience is something you do. Okay, so I like that textual base. He does the same in Galatians 3:6. Somebody read that for me, please. Galatians 3:6. What does it say there? Paul used that verse. Galatians 3:6.
Just as Abraham believed God, and it was counted to him as righteousness.
Isn't that good? Our brother Paul. You go to school with him? Good teacher, Paul. All right, so then he says the argument moves from considering Abraham's faith to the priority of the Abrahamic covenant over the Mosaic covenant. Very relevant today, right? The Mosaic covenant, in the letter at least, is gone. The Abrahamic covenant is very much in force, hence the Church of God, Abraham. The choice of Genesis 15:6 shows that for Paul, faith is neither a work, it's not something that you can earn something with, nor an intuition, it's not just a feeling. But it is, I love this, persuasion of the promises as they're summed up in Christ. That's exactly right. You've been persuaded. Persuaded. I like that. That's Acts 19:8 in your list, isn't it? Paul went into the synagogue and argued with them, persuaded them. It says some of them believed, some didn't believe. So to believe is to be persuaded. It's very clear. Persuade. You said yes, which is faith. I actually believe what God said, and I'm going to believe it. Then you're on board. You started the salvation process. By drawing attention to the covenantal orientation, it was a covenant as well, of Abraham's faith, Paul shows that he understood the difference between believing in God and believing God. Yes, there is no difference in the Bible, right? But what they do in Billy Graham world is to talk about believing in Jesus all the time, but never believing Jesus. Got it? That's the trick. To believe in Jesus, you must believe Jesus. I can't believe in you if I don't believe what you say. But what they do out there is say, what do you believe in Jesus? Believe in Jesus. But then they say the teachings of Jesus is not for you, it's for Jews. It doesn't get any worse than that. I think the point I'm trying to get over is beware, it's not a good word out there, biblically speaking. It's a mess. It's going to be a struggle.
Demons believed in God, but
Gotcha. I love it. They did. In other words, they believed that the demons existed, but didn't save them, of course. But the text, that you hear when Jeremiah in Atlanta gives his plea for salvation, it's always, won't you give your heart to the Lord? Won't you believe in the Lord? Put up your hand and get saved. But what if you didn't tell them really what they're supposed to believe? I think this is why these people said, we need a clearer denomination on this. Okay. And he expresses it rather well, this man. To argue in contrast, in the third paragraph, that Abraham believed in God rather than in the promise, quote, and that he clung to God who had promised rather than to what had been promised. In other words, he's against the system which says you just have to believe in God as distinct from what God promises it, which is only a simple way of saying the words are critical. The words of Jesus. The devil has one trick, is to get rid of the words of Jesus. You can go on saying, Jesus loves you, baby, doesn't matter what you do. You can accept Jesus, he died for it all. You can go on say it to your blue in the face, but if you don't give them the gospel of the kingdom, you haven't done them any good. So he's coming against what I would call the Billy Graham system. I'm being a bit hard on Billy Graham, but Billy Graham does say that the gospel is strictly Jesus died and rose. 3 days' work. Quote, right? 3 days' work. Jesus came to die, he buried. That's just wrong. You're against that. You don't need to go around saying that, shrieking that publicly, but deep in your heart, you understand what you're working at. That's good strategy. Good technique. Okay. To argue in context is just so he's saying that he's against this quote stuff, that Abraham just believed in God rather than believing the promise. So this article then, which I'll give you for your supplied stuff down the line, that's written a whole lot, too much stuff. Have one of those for your file. Okay. Yep, one for him. There's a key text then. The promise, one of those promises. Thank you. The promise to Abraham that he would be heir of the world, right? It has content. The promise has content. Namely, he's going to inherit the world. The rabbis could see that Jerusalem is the center of the kingdom. If the Messiah inherits Jerusalem, automatically gets to the ends of the earth. That's what it says. If you have Jerusalem in your government, then you are controlling the whole world. And the world is going to learn, I'm quoting Isaiah here, the world is going to learn righteousness. It's going to take a lot of work, right? You're going to be against abortion. You will not be killing babies in wombs. That's not good. 60 million have died. Stop a beating heart. If people are not horrified at that, there's a certain insensitivity because that little beating heart, is a person. Now you remember that Mary said, rather Elizabeth said, isn't it great? And both women were pregnant at the time. And Elizabeth said, isn't it great that the mother of my Lord has come to see me, my Lord Jesus, in the womb. That was my Lord Jesus. So we could have done the human race a lot of harm by aborting that baby, right? It's part of one's sensitivity to creation. You love animals. You love the creation. You marvel at the creation more and more, I think. That's part of loving God, I think. Okay, so that's the point there. If Abraham clung to God, he says correctly, it was to the God who revealed himself in and by his word. Absolutely. Jesus without his word is not Jesus. You are not doing anybody any favor by saying, believe in Jesus, right? I'm being unfair to the preacher. The devil has only one trick, that's to separate Jesus from his teaching. You must give the words of Jesus. I can't tell who Kyle is. If he's, I can smile and we can see what he's about, but it's when he says so and so about it, then we get to know who you are, because out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So out of the abundance of God's heart, he speaks in Jesus. Now I know what it is. Okay. So the priority of the underlined of the word as the mode of divine self-disclosure. It's a heavy way of saying it, but your word discloses who you are. God's purpose, in the beginning was the word, the purpose statement, you might translate that well. In the beginning was the purpose statement, the statement of intention. There you go, right? In the beginning was the statement of intention. Once you say in the beginning was the Son of God, you've ruined the whole thing. You've lost the intention, you've lost the gospel, and you've multiplied God. You've now got two gods to worry about. That's a disaster. Okay. So, commenting on Paul's treatment of Abraham's faith, N.T. Wright, Professor Wright is very famous. Joe mentions him often. He's very amusing and very, very talented in history. If he believed what we believe here, he'd get thrown out. He loses his job, unfortunately. So N.T. Wright says, the nature of that faith, not in the sense of an analysis of the act of believing, but in the sense of an analysis of what is believed, of course. Everything is the content. What does it mean to believe in Jesus? It's important. Over the page. Romans 4 makes clear that God's self-disclosure, his revealing his purpose, through the word of promise, is the reason for Abraham's subjective faith. And apart from that subjective faith, analysis of his faith is impossible. Unless you unpack what it is, right, that Abraham believed, you won't understand. Next paragraph. As indicated, the propositional facet of Abraham's faith is the word of covenant or promise. There are your famous Genesis chapters 12, 15, 17. Specifically here, the promise of Genesis 15, to which the citation epistes de Avram to Theo, you haven't got your Greek yet, we don't do Greek in the college anymore, do we? We did for years. It's nice to have a little bit of Greek. You're professionals now. A little bit of Greek and Hebrew, it doesn't hurt. You're technical, professional people. Anyway, that simply means the citation, Abraham believed God. That's what it is, the Romans 4:3. This is the promise that Abraham would be the father of numerous descendants, which according to Paul was the ground of his being right rather than wrong. He simply said, yes, I believe it. Now look at the test the man went through. All right, take your son and kill him. Wait a minute. You just promised me that through my son, we'd have all these descendants. Now you ask me to kill the son? What's that about? He didn't waver. Hebrews said, didn't waver. He's got the knife in his hand, right? He's about to slay his son. God said, now I see that you believe me. And Hebrews says that, metaphorically speaking, he got him back from death. He believed in the resurrection. No problem, right? I'm going to kill my son. Not a problem. God can raise him from the dead. That's faith. Isn't that beautiful? It's very clear. People need to understand this and read the Bible, I think, with intelligence. So his faith was demonstrated by his willing to give up. And are you willing to give up yourself? What about, martyr? Have you read it? It's unreal today, fortunately, but something like that. Okay, from the moment he spoke, last sentence there, God was no longer agonistos theos, the unknown God. No longer the unknown God, which he was until he spoke. And Abraham was no longer unrighteous. The moment God spoke and he believed, Abraham became righteous, became godly, right? He was a Christian, he was a believer. But only when God spoke and he believed. So it's just backing up the point that we've been making. You see the drift. I'm going to ask you to wade through some of that on your own for the reading for this next month. Read the rest of that. Read slowly though, because the language is a little technical. It's not difficult, but it's really a brilliant little paper because it talks about the 3 P's. Progeny, you're going to have children. Although his wife was way beyond childbearing age. You're going to have property, the land, right? Property. And you're going to have prosperity, all kinds of blessings. You're going to be blessed in every way. And we should add, you're going to be a blessing. When we invite people to our conference in May, I'm always careful to say, not only are you going to be blessed by coming to this conference, but you are going to be a blessing by being there, right? You can get up, tell your story of faith, how you were a Roman Catholic and you were this or that and the other. Now you see these truths. You're going to be a blessing to others, to come and be a blessing as well as be blessed. So that's my point here was to give you something from the scholarly world. That was from a journal called WTJ, which was Westminster Theological Journal, way back in 1997. I wrote to the guy, had nice correspondence with him, because he had the Abraham thing right. He's got it absolutely spot on. And he's from Wales, that particular. Okay, so that was the second thing I wanted to do. All right, yes. The 78 weeks. I need to deal with that. Picture for you. All to do with the gospel of the kingdom, what leads up to it. Now, if you look at this very much, one house, please. Sooner or later, you're going to be preaching out of Daniel. I hope you will. Jesus loved the book of Daniel because he found the Son of Man in which chapter of Daniel? Daniel 7, right? 7. Found himself there. He found you there. You're the saints. You're a corporate group with the Son of Man. The Son of Man is the head of the body and you're the body, so you're part of what the Son of Man gets. That's the chapter I'm referring to, Daniel 7 now, briefly. This is the chapter which says, the time came when the saints possessed the kingdom, and all the nations and the languages and the tribes are going to obey the saints. They obey you. Whoa, translations are hesitant there. That's what the Hebrew says. That's amazing to me. Whoa, what is God doing here? This is incredible. All nations are going to say yes. These are God's people. We'll have to do what they say. The rule of law. They talk a lot about that these days. You need the rule of law, don't you? Does it break your heart when you see somebody get some piece of metal and smash it a window? You're going to say, stop it. And they'll have to do it. And that's horrible. Can you imagine? You wouldn't be doing that. I don't think so. How dare you smash somebody's window? Unspeakable, right? Or let's go worse. How dare you have sex outside of marriage? Don't do it. Right? You might have a child out of wedlock. Whoa! And Paul then says, let me tell you, no adulterer, no fornicator, no idolater will be in the kingdom period. Now that's if you know better, right? And we all make mistakes. I understand that. I get that. I do get that. David made a mistake. But there's coming a time when you don't mess around. It's going to be a world that you ain't imagine possible right now. Okay, so that's the 70 weeks. In chapter 9, the last 5 chapters of Daniel are straight prophecy. 7 is the one about the kingdom. Son of Man gets the kingdom, saints get the kingdom. And chapter 8 is all about the final anti-Christian figure comes out of the Greek kingdom. Jim Masson believed that before he died. Probably not Rome. Rome might be involved. One doesn't know that. But Alexander the Great is Greece in the prophecy of chapter 8. Teach the children G. Great, Greece, Alexander the Great. Easy, right? Children need to get hold of that very early. In Sunday school, you're going to teach kids. That's great, Greek, Greece. Alexander the Great, who died at the age of 33 of wine, women, and song. So we call him Alexander the Great, or was it Alexander the Luthor? Whatever. See what we do? That which is highly esteemed among men, Jesus said, is abominable to God. Oh, can you imagine weeping because there was no more world to conquer? What? Oh, terrible. He just wept, poor Lily. I've conquered the world. He spread the Greek language all over the world. His soul is that was blessing, didn't know, giving. Alexander the Great. He's there in chapter 8. And also the Antichrist. There's a little horn. There's a final evil guy coming. And what we call it the Antichrist. In chapter 9, you have what's been called the dismal swamp of prophecy. It's mass chaos, but I think this group has it right. 70 weeks prophecy, Daniel 9. I'm going to ask, if I could, Madison, could you read that 9, 24 to 27, Daniel, for me? Just use reading. Daniel 9, 24 to 27.
70 weeks are decreed about your people and your holy city, to bring the rebellion to an end, to put a stop to sin, to wipe away any iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy place. Know and understand this, from the issuing of the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince will be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. It will be rebuilt with a plaza and a moat, but in difficult times. After those 62 weeks, the Messiah will be cut off and will have nothing. The people of the coming prince will destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end will come with a flood, and until the end there will be war. Desolations are decreed. He will make a firm covenant with many for 1 week, but in the middle of the week he will put a stop to sacrifice and offering. And the abomination of desolation will be on a wing of the temple until the decreed destruction is poured out on the desolator.
Yeah, okay. You are professionals. You should be prepared to preach this all over the world. I hope I'm not asking, but this is part of the words of God. People say, I need instruction on having a good marriage, not all this stuff. Wait, just to live by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. So it's part of your professional job. You are experts, your professions. So you have to work at this stuff too. Not only, of course, but it's good to know what's going on here. And what you do when you're preaching out of this chapter, you do the whole chapter of 9, right? It's impassioned stuff. You knew this, perhaps, about prayer. It's the most incredible demonstration of how to pray. In the first year of Darius, chapter 9:1, year of the reign of I, Daniel, observed in the books of a number of years, which was revealed as the word of the Lord to Jeremiah for the completion of desolations of Jerusalem, namely 70 years, right? And you go back and you explain that Jeremiah had given a prophecy historically, right? It happened, 70 years of punishment. And then they would come back. So what we're looking at is A bad time or a good time? Which would you think? What is the object of this prayer? Something ghastly is going to happen or something good? What's your sense? How do you discern that? The point of the prayer is, oh God, oh God, oh God, pouring out his heart. And the answer that you'd expect then is, Daniel is going to be okay, or Daniel is going to be with ghastly. The first one is the answer. The resolution of this prophecy is it's a good time coming. Back to you, it was you question, 80-70, right? It's not going to end in 70 AD. With great respect. Now here, unfortunately, it doesn't work. 80-70 was a disaster, right? 1.1 million Jews were taken captive by Rome. That's not the end of this prophecy. That's not going to work. The whole point, you must preach this fully because people don't do the context, but the whole prayer is, let me read you something. In the first year of the reign, I discovered about the 70 years, it's a historical event, 70 years. So I gave my attention to God, verse 3. I prayed to the Lord my God and said, alas, O Lord, the great and awesome God, usual stuff on Unitarian monotheism and prayer. We've sinned, verse 5. We've sinned, committed iniquity. We've not listened. Hey, there you go. We haven't listened. We haven't paid attention to what God says. This is the story of the Bible. Moreover, verse 6, we have not listened to your servants, the prophets, who spoke in your name. Righteousness belongs to you, O Lord. But to us, open shame today. Tremendous prayer, by the way. It's an amazing prayer. Verse 8, verse 9. To the Lord our God, I never understood this as a child. I heard this read. To the Lord our God belong passion. I heard that as, to the Lord our God be long compassion. As a child, I didn't understand it. Didn't explain to me. I heard this read. No. To the Lord our God belong compassion. You get it, right? They belong to him. Indeed, all Israel, verse 11, has transgressed your law. That's the story of the Bible. Turned aside, not obeying your voice, not obeying the gospel of the kingdom, etc. 12, thus he's confirmed his words which he had spoken against us, against our rulers who ruled us, to bring on us a great calamity. For under the whole heaven, there's not been done anything like what's been done to Jerusalem. It's been a disaster, right? What's he praying about? The city's in ruins and the temple is wrecked. Right? He cares about his country, doesn't he? Because God is in that temple and the temple is ruined. So God has left them. You're looking for the good time coming. This is the first logical point when you preach on this chapter. You're looking not for disaster. So to say that 70 AD is the resolution of this is the exact backward. Do you with me? It makes no sense. You're looking for the good time coming. Everlasting righteousness. You hear that as Church of God as the kingdom, right? Oh God, when is it all going to be okay? Not, oh God, when is it all going to be ruined again? That would hardly be a prayer. That make a lot of sense. That is what has happened when people preach this stuff. They usually just do verses 24 to 27 for the double context. No. You read the prayer. It's in Passion Prayer. All the way down, verse 15. Now, O Lord God, you have brought your people out of the land of Egypt with a mighty hand. There's the history. Made a name for yourself, a reputation for yourself, as it is this day. We have sinned. We have been wicked. O Lord, 16. In accordance to all your righteous acts, let now your anger and your wrath turn away from your city, Jerusalem, your holy mountain. Verse 17. So now, our God, listen to the prayer of your servant and to his supplications. And for your sake, O Lord, let your face shine on your desolate sanctuary. Isn't that beautiful? 80-70? You're with me, right? You're hearing what I'm saying. I can see you are. That's when I was wrestling with this many years. I'm quite sure that he's not talking about a terminus, to use the technical word. Terminus, in prophecy, a terminus a quo, the point from which, and a terminus ad quem, the point to which the prophecy goes, right? It's very cynical to say this prophecy ends in 70 AD when the whole thing was ruined, right? This is wrong. No, the whole prophecy ends when finally the kingdom is restored. Looking at a future desolation of Israel, which we did this morning, Zechariah, right? It's going to be bad time. Shine your face on the city and the sanctuary. Shows how messianic this Bible is. It's all to do with the city and the sanctuary. Please, God, let your face shine on it. Isn't that the thing, the blessing in number 6, they give this wonderful blessing. The Lord, you should have it memorized for moments in church where you need it. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and give you his peace. Isn't that it? That's the Numbers blessing. You have that. You're a minister. You're blessing the people. You should have that ready to go. That's a blessing is prayed for here, right? 70 AD is not going to work. Are you rather curiously, you mentioned that as you came in. I didn't know you were going to even say that, but I planned to do this, so that fits in well. Okay, so that's the story. 18. Oh my God, incline your ear. You should pray this way, by the way. If you're sick even, before you rush and take every pill in the book, and you may have to do that. I'm not saying anything about what you do with the doctors, that's up to you. But God is still a healer. And so you pray. And you could preach on the blind men who heard that Jesus was coming by, and they said, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us. Isn't that great? He went over and healed them. So this sort of prayer is your prayer too. Oh my God, 18. Incline your ear and hear. Open your eyes. See our desolations and the city, which is called by your name. Well, we're not presenting our application before you on account of merits of our own. I like that, right? It's not because we're such great people who are praying. That's suitable modesty, but on account of your great compassion. Marvelous way to pray, isn't it? It's very, very good. Oh Lord, hear. Oh Lord, forgive. Oh Lord, listen. Did you realize that Shema is listen, Israel? And you can tell God to listen too. I like that. God tells us, listen, Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. You tell God to listen. Listen to my prayer. I'm in trouble. I need help. This is the way he's praying. Oh my God, do not delay. Take action, because your city and your people are called by your name. We belong to you, God. Therefore, intervene for us, right? That's what he's saying. Now, while I was speaking and praying, confessing my sin and the sin of my people, presenting my supplication before the Lord my God on behalf of the holy mountain or city of my God, location of Jerusalem. While I was still speaking in prayer, then the man Gabriel, he's actually an angel, but showed up as a man. Gabriel showed up like that to pray. Last time we prayed and Gabriel showed up in the room. Probably not so often anyway. It doesn't matter. Gabriel showed up, whom I'd seen in the vision previously. He came to me in my extreme weariness about the time of the evening offering. He gave me instruction and talked to me and said, "Oh, Daniel, I've not come forth to give you insight with understanding." I like that. I'm going to make you understand some stuff here. At the beginning of your prayer, your supplication, the command was issued, and I've come to tell you, you are highly esteemed. Wait a minute, I thought I was a poor little wretched sinner. Well, yes, that too, okay. But you are highly esteemed. So give heed, Gabriel said, to the message, and gain understanding of the vision. Here we have it then. 70 weeks. All right. The NIV is correct. I think you were reading NIV, were you?
HCSB.
HSB. Good. That's nice. Holman's Bible. That's great.
New Christian Standard Bible.
Yeah. It's nice, easy translation to read. Well, how did it read there at the beginning of 24?
70 weeks are decreed.
Okay. NIV is better. 77s. Not weeks, sevens. Slight difference. Not actually weeks. Shavuim in Hebrew means units of 7. Could be 7 minutes, 7 seconds, 7,000 years, right? Subtle difference. You have to discern from the context. Are we talking years, right? So the NIV is actually right there. It says 77s. That's not wrong, but it's just a small point. 77s. If you have Bible Works translations in front of you, you'll see some of them do that better. NIV, 77s. If you're studying this to preach on it, you really ought to consult Kyle and Delich, famous commentary on the Old Testament. I don't know if Bob mentioned it to you, but Kyle and Delich were huge language experts and believers. They really believe what they did. So Kyle and Delich, commentary on Daniel, commentary on the Old Testament. Or if you can get second-hand the pulpit commentary, it's online, by the way. You've got comments online these days. So it's incredible what information. Okay, 77 have been decreed. Actually cut out from history for your people and your holy city to finish the transgression, to make an end of sin, to make an atonement for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint most holy place. That sounds like a good time coming, doesn't it? It doesn't sound like wreckage to me. You know, everlasting, if you're kingdom people, you hear the kingdom there. You bring in everlasting righteousness, a reference to the death of Christ, certainly, the Messiah is going to be cut off. So, you're to know and discern, Gabriel says to Daniel, from the issuing of a decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem, and that's in history, there was, probably 445 under Nehemiah. Sean Finnegan's done good work on this, and many others. The historical fact was they did have a decree to restore the Jerusalem was wrecked at the time when he was praying, right? That happened. But the time is relevant to us is until Messiah the Prince. In Hebrew, Mashiach Nagid. Mashiach Nagid, Prince Messiah. That's your favorite person in the Bible. Until Prince Messiah, either his entry into Jerusalem, his birth, whatever, that part has all been done well by Sean and many others. Will be so many weeks. How many? 7 and 62. How many does that make? How many sevens is 62 plus 7?
69.
69 sevens, which is how many years? I'm assuming years if there's nothing else to work to. In other words, that's 69 times 7, and you're such brilliant mathematician, you just know off the top of your head that comes to how many years. It's got a machine to do with it.
Oh.
Yeah, come on, don't tell him. See the really bright one.
483.
Woo! Guy's a genius. That's silly. So we're short of 7 years there, are we not? 77s have been allotted, right? 70 times 7, that's easy even for me. That's 490 years, right? 70 times 7. Obviously years. He's talking about years in context, by the way. The whole prophecy, the original form of the prophecy was Israel will be in captivity for 70 years. 70 minutes is not going to work. 70 seconds are not going to work. 490 years. And everybody agrees on that. That's not arguing. So 490 is what we're looking at. But from the decree to rebuild Jerusalem and all that, which happened in past, until Messiah arrives, as Jesus at his first coming, will be 483. Leaving 1 7 over, right? And that's where all the argument is with. Okay, supposing you take the historicist version that you've obviously been exposed to at some point, that's fine. You don't have to change your mind on anything, you think about it. But here's the two options, right? On your chart, I give you a chart, the two options. If you look at the lower one, which obviously, sorry, the top one, historicism goes like this. 7 weeks is 49 years. That's agreed. That everybody agrees with that. 62 weeks is 434, a total of 483. Then the 70th week is the argument, right? The argument point. What are you going to do with that 70th period of 7? Are you going to say it ended in 70 AD or even 33 AD? Or are you going to say it ends in the future? Obviously, I'm a futurist, as Joe is too. We work with a classical futurist point of view. Because the logic of this thing is, when is everything going to be put right? And it wasn't put right in 34 AD. Yes, Jesus came. We're going to see that part of the terminus, certainly there. But the terminus ad quem, the point to which we're going, right, is to me the second coming. And all the other processes in Daniel end with the kingdom. Neatly. They all look forward to that time. So here's scheme number 1. Historicism goes like this. You'd have the arrival of Jesus, let's say AD set 27, that's near enough, around about that time, and those dates are difficult to fix exactly. Then, if you have the 70th week, the last 7 years, immediately then, you'd have Jesus' death in the middle of it, and you'd arrive in 34 AD, you with me? If you took the 490 years as consecutive. It's very odd to add in, to end this prophecy in 34 AD. What happened in 34 AD? Nothing very clear. There's no chronology in Acts that marks it anyway. And then you can ask your friend, did Jesus make a covenant with the Jews for 7 years only? It's not clear to me either. So he made a covenant with everybody forever. But anyway, that's one alternative. That's called historicism. And I put a question mark. Daniel 9:26a, the evil prince destroys the city. And 9:26b, you have a complete destruction of the desolator. All right, here's a key point. Who was the guy who ruined the city in 70 AD? Who was the Roman? Do you happen to know that?
So Nero?
Not actually Nero. Well, Nero's involved in the destruction of Rome. That's true. But the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD, beginning with the letter T. Who was that? 5 letters ending in S. We've got something they don't know, Carlos. This is exciting. This makes a professor's life. Titus is the answer. Titus. Isn't it? Okay, you're not covering this stuff. You haven't had a chance to. You need to be up on these things. So Titus in 70 AD was the Roman general who destroyed the city. It was a catastrophe. 1.1 million Jews were Titus in 70 AD. That's historical fact. That was a very funny way to end the prophecy. Total destruction. I thought we were looking for the good time coming. So futurism makes much better sense to me. And this is, what I'm giving you is classical futurism. Joe certainly believes that. Well, probably, I don't know. But many in the ship got taken. So I'm not coming up with something I never thought of. You know where your dad is. You have to ask him on that. But he will be aware of this. Or, so the second view underneath then is what I'm going for. Notice futurism. Let's just say that the 70th heptad, the 70th 7, right, ends at the second coming with the restoration of the city of Jerusalem. So here's how it goes. You'd have 7 weeks, 49 years, plus 62 weeks, 434 years. 7 and 62 makes 69. Total, as you worked out so brilliantly, of 483 years. 483 years. What we do with the last 7 is the difference between the two systems. There's the death of Christ after the 69. Now, here's what we do with futurism. It's in the future, and you have the 70th heptad, the 7 periods, the 7 years that's left over. The first 3.5 years would be a covenant made with Antichrist. I'll go through the text and show you how this goes. A false peace made, you've heard of this, haven't you? You've been exposed to this in the Church of God. Some evil guy, pretending to be a good guy, says, I'm going to make peace with Israel and solve all the problems, and they buy it. For 3.5 years, all is well. In the middle of that 7 years, after 3.5 years, the guy turns into a beast and really tries to decimate them. Jesus puts an end to that by killing the Antichrist when he comes back, right? And the 70th week will finish them with the advent of Christ, right? Not in 34 AD, not in 70 AD. The difficulty with 34 AD is obvious. There's nothing in the book of Acts that suggests anything. If you then add another 40 years, your mathematics gone strange. You know that one? If you say, well, the 70 weeks, 490 years ends in 33 AD, 34 AD, then what are you doing adding another 40 years to it? That makes little sense as well. So if you end at the second coming, you've got war and great tribulation in the second half of that 70th week. Jesus certainly stopped the sacrifices at his death, we know that. Why I put that there? I'm not sure if that's right. Stop. Oh yeah, sorry. But the sacrifice is stopping, that means the Antichrist puts an end to them. This theory then is based on the fact that it would have to be a temple of some sort, which is politically difficult now, in which the Jews, and you're aware of this. Do you know this? The Temple Mount Faithful, they've got all the garments and all the mizbeach ready to go. Did you know that? Oh yeah, that's quite interesting. It's massive on the internet. You just have time, short life to look it all up. Oh yes, I mean the one thing a religious Jew, and most of them are not. Most of them are agnostics. Only the guys with the big curls and bobbing up against the Wailing Wall are the super religious ones who don't believe in Messiah as having come. They do believe in the Messiah yet to come. And their temple is non-existent. So the one thing they're longing to do, and there are a number of key characters in the Middle East and elsewhere, whose only object in life is to get that temple built. They need the ashes of a red heifer. In the Old Testament, you have to sanctify some utensil or something with the ashes of a red heifer. You need a red heifer. It's rare that one gets born. Whether one has been born, I don't follow all that, but you need a red heifer with ashes so that you can get the paraphernalia going. And if then the Arabs would let them put a temple of some sort on the Alaska Mosque, to split the dynamite, that could happen. Then you could have a temple. We haven't got it yet. So on this system, then you're looking for some kind of a temple building. And the good guy, so-called good guy, is this Antichrist, who at the beginning of that 7 years makes a covenant with Israel. In fact, it turns out to be a false peace. And they all say, peace and safety, isn't this great? We've got it made. And then, boom, in the middle, he turns into an Antichrist and stops the sacrifices which they would have started at the beginning. Got it? They would institute sacrifices again. It wouldn't be relevant to you because your sacrifices are already taken place. So that's the scenario then of futurism. I've got a chance to do this with you, by the way. You should be up on this. You should know about it. You are professionals. Okay, the second system makes better sense for me. Now go back to the text itself. 924, 77s, not weeks, but heptads, 77s of time, have been cut out for your people, your holy city, to finish the transgression, to get it taken care of, to make an end of sin, to make an atonement, sounds awfully like the atonement of Jesus to me, to bring in everlasting righteousness, which I don't think we've got yet, something happened 70 AD, so the everlasting kingdom, to seal up vision and prophecy into the most holy place. There will be a temple in the kingdom of God. You've read that in Ezekiel for 40 chapters. Apparently there'll be a temple built then, not the temple that might be built now, but another temple, and there will be a reinstatement of that system. Why that is, I don't know, but they'll also be keeping the Sabbath, and it says that Egypt should keep the Feast of Tabernacles once a year. If they don't, there'll be no rain. That's a prophecy, Zechariah. So I don't fully understand that, but it could be that God is going to make those Jewish people go through that routine again to get the idea of discipline. I don't know. We'll just wait and see. You don't have to keep the Sabbath.
That's a fourth temple.
Yeah, it'd be the fourth temple, right? Good point. The first temple of Solomon, right? David did not build. Solomon built. The second temple was built by
Herodotus?
Herodotus, not Herodotus.
Herod?
Herod the Great, yes.
Herodotus.
That's right. Herodotus is a historian. Right?
Yeah.
Herod, yeah. That second temple was ruined in 70 AD, right? Good point. Ghastly temple, 70, ruined, destroyed. So if there's a temple now, it'll be the third temple. There's a huge amount of stuff out there online if you had time.
And that one, the temple that's coming will be destroyed as well.
Yeah, it will also be destroyed when Christ comes back. There'll be a huge earthquake in Jerusalem. That's in the book of Revelation. So that'll go too. But the one that would perhaps be built according to this system would be the third temple. And there's a vast amount of talk and interest in that.
Well, that's the difficult thing for this, because it's a temple built while Christ is here.
Yep.
So under Christ,
yeah,
who's our sacrifice,
yeah,
who's our Torah, there will be
absolutely
the reestablishment of something that
right.
He did away with.
But it's the Jewish, but it's the Jewish story. Though. It's not the Christian story. People say, well, what good is a temple built now before Christ comes back? It's no good to you. Although you can mention that the apostles went up to pray at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, even after the death of Christ, right? The temple wasn't completely without meaning. But the sacrifices being offered in a supposed coming temple before Christ comes back are not relevant to you. It's the Jewish story. And you know, because this is good Abrahamic doctrine, there's a future for Israel in the future, right? The beginning of that Jewish story would be when they build a temple, then they accept Messiah as well. So it's not impossible for them to build a temple. They will come to see that it doesn't have ultimate relevance once they accept Jesus. But that's the Jewish story, that part of it. Okay, so that's futurism. Reading the text here then in Daniel 9 to finish off this point, you are to discern, that from the issuing of a decree to restore and build Jerusalem until Mashiach Nagid, until the Messiah comes, that's his first coming, will be 483 years. It was, yes.
Why would God have them build a temple if that's the whole reason why Jesus came, is to fulfill the law?
Well, because they have not accepted Messiah.
Mm-hmm.
They're working out of the fact the Messiah has not come. A Jew, right?
Right. So
They're going to do it because that's what Jews do.
right.
But
But
it's
why
not-
would God like make that necessary that they have to
Yeah.
go back into that Old Testament sort of way of going? Even
Yeah,
though-
it's a good question. The fact they're going to do it based on their premises, it makes perfect sense, right? They haven't accepted Messiah.
right.
In one sense, it's a mistake. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
In another sense, that's what Jews have always wanted to have, is a temple. They're going to do it. But it's going to fail. No.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's a false peace. This Antichrist on the theory says, I'm going to let you build your temple. We're going to have peace. It's all going to be, and that's what they want, right?
Mhm.
They desperately want peace with the Arabs. That's what Obama was waiting for, President Trump and so on. But you're right. It's not God's ultimate will. You're right. But God somehow, sometimes I think allows things to happen. That appears to be the answer to that. But you're exactly right. You're not going to go to that temple
Yeah.
and get anything out of it. Because you're a Christian, you believe the Messiah has come. Difference in you and a Jew is precisely that you believe the Messiah has come. They believe the Messiah is still yet to come. At least the Orthodox section. Some of them don't believe anything at all, right? So, okay, so let's suppose then that Antichrist figure turns out to be a bad guy. Halfway through that 70th week, he puts a stop to sacrifice. And he turns out to be the abomination of desolation, which is key for Jesus. Here's how it goes then. Verse 25. You're to know that from that historical decree under Nehemiah to rebuild Jerusalem to Messiah the Prince, there'll be 7 weeks. By the way, the destroyer of the second temple was Nebuchadnezzar.
The first, the Solomon
sorry,
temple,
Nebuchadnezzar, yes. Solomon built it.
and Nebu destroyed it,
Nebu
right?
destroyed it, that's right.
The second Herod
Second temple,
finished it, I think,
he finished it off, that's correct.
and Titus
Oh,
destroyed it.
and it was destroyed in 70, right? The second temple was destroyed in 70 by Titus, and this would be a third temple by a pseudo.
Destroyed by Jesus, or his coming.
No, the second.
No, the third one.
Third temple, yeah, no, the second temple was destroyed by Titus.
Right, the third one
Third
will
one
be
would be
destroyed.
destroyed at the coming of Christ. Yes.
Right.
Then the fourth temple would be a new temple in the millennium. Ezekiel 40 to 48. Okay, you have to know then about that. Till Messiah comes, there will be the 483 years. And that works historically. You can calculate 483 years exactly from Nehemiah's decree till the arrival of Jesus, probably when he walked in and they all laid these carpets of leaves, the triumphal entry. That works. That part has worked. The 70th week then, in verse 26, after the 62 weeks, and including the 7 there, we've just got the 7 and 62, so after the 69 weeks, but it doesn't say, incidentally, in the 70th week. After the 69, and here's where the gap would come in. The Messiah will be cut off. Sorry, the gap would not be. After the 483 years, the Messiah will be cut off. He died. That's good. Crucifixion. Be cut off. It was. It wasn't in the 70th week on this scheme. It was after the end of the 69th. It's just a gap there, which on this theory would have to be. Messiah's cut off. That's his death. And has nothing. He didn't get his inheritance, right? He was killed. Cut off. As Isaiah 53 will be cut off for our sins. And now, and the people of the prince who is to come, this is a bad guy. The people of a coming prince will destroy the city and the sanctuary, and that certainly happened. Will destroy the city and the sanctuary. And his end, the Hebrew there reads, his end. You want to take a mark of note of that. In your version, if you've got its end, the end, it's not clear. It should be his end. The bad guy's end will come with a flood. What does your Holman Bible say?
What verse was that?
Verse 26. 26. What do you got there? 26b. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
26.
why I was in the wrong chapter. I was like, this isn't making sense.
Yeah.
Um,
No, it wouldn't make any sense.
says
26.
the end will come.
Yes. It's not right.
That's it.
It's not right. The Hebrew is quite definitely, his end will come. the people of the prince is to come. It's a bad guy. And his end, it doesn't work for Titus. This is the major point of it. This is the major. If it's supposed to be a reference to AD 70, his end, it won't work because Titus did not come to his end. He lived on another 18 years, died naturally. It's a key point. Again, Kylan deletes the discussion is important. He didn't. It doesn't work for Titus. So when this evil guy comes, his end, the end of his life will come in the destruction of the judgment that Jesus will bring. That's a very important point.
You want to throw in there 1145?
Yep, absolutely. In your margin, go to 1145 and mark it in your margin, 1145.
Yet he will come to his end and
Exactly.
no one will help him.
This is the final king of the north. I'll read from verse 40 to get the sense. At the end time, the king of the south will collide with the king of the north, and the king of the north will storm against him as a battle between two kings. Verse 41, he, the king of the north, the bad guy, will also enter the beautiful land, and many countries will fall, but these will be rescued out of his hand, namely, he did not know that, Ammon. And he, the bad guy, will stretch out his hand. Other countries, the land of Egypt, will not escape, but he will gain control of the hidden treasures of gold and silver, of all the precious things of Egypt. Libyans, Ethiopians will follow his heels. But rumors from the east and from the north will disturb this king of the north, and he will go forth with great wrath to destroy and annihilate many. He will pitch the tents of his royal pavilion between the seas and the beautiful holy mountain that's in Israel, the beautiful holy mountain, and yet he will come to his end. God is exactly the same as 9:26. He comes to his end, his final death in this judgment that Jesus will bring at the second time. That seems to fit well. So as you ponder this, you need time to think of it. Certainly try to read Kylan Delich on this. I've got tons of articles at my side on it. I'm not inventing anything new. Most of our people believe the same way now, but Joe certainly does. David probably doesn't. Okay, so he comes to his end. 26b then is key. It should read, and he comes to his end with a flood of judgment, that is. Even to the end of the prophecy, there'll be war, desolations at its end. And he, the same he, this evil guy will make a firm covenant with the many for one final week, right? That's 7 years business. This is a false covenant, right? The multitude say, yeah, we like you, you're great. But they're falling for a bad guy. He makes a covenant and it all goes wrong halfway through. Then you have what's called the Great Tribulation. You've heard of that, right? Jesus mentioned that in Matthew 24. The Great Tribulation is that last 3.5 years of the final week. Triggered, Jesus said, by the abomination of desolation, right? You know Matthew 24 very quickly, what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age? One idea, what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age? We're not asking, as it turns out, about 70 AD. Although the temple was indeed destroyed in 70 AD, as it turns out, Jesus was talking about the end of the age, which wasn't 70 AD. Here's how the Church of God works, I think, very well. Jesus was human. He doesn't know times and seasons. He didn't. All he knows from Daniel is it's going to be trouble in the temple and then the kingdom. He knows that from Daniel, right? He'd read it in Daniel. As he looks out on the temple, he doesn't know if that's going to be the final temple that will be involved there. As it turns out, it isn't, because he did not come back in 70 AD, right? Although there are folk out there who say he did. That's called preterism. Yeah, hard time convincing you that Jesus came back in 70 AD. That people do. So that's just wrong. He looks out and he says, I see, there's going to be trouble in the temple and then the second coming. They're all connected in Daniel, and that yet will happen. There'll be a temple on this theory, and the Antichrist will give a false peace, and then it all goes wrong. And that wicked guy becomes the abomination of desolation. It's the person. So if you perhaps just take a note of this, in Mark 13:14, don't bother reading it now, it talks about when you see the A of D, abomination of desolation, right? When you see the A of D standing where he ought not to, it should be he there, in my translation, and others. It's a he, it's a person. When you see him standing in a temple, Matthew says, it sounds awfully like a real temple, and when you see him standing in a holy place, sounds like a holy place, then flee. If you're in Israel, head for the hills. What you do in Georgia, I have no idea. I in my basement. I don't know what you do. But you remember that. Now I'm talking Matthew 24. So you flee from Georgia, I don't know, hide, whatever. Because Jesus said, when you see this happen, then there will be a great tribulation, such as has never happened from the beginning of time till ever, right? That's quoting Daniel 12:1. Quoting Daniel 12:1. Jesus loved the book of Daniel, loved the book of Daniel. Then in Daniel 12:2, you know what it says? Many of those who are sleeping in dust around will rise at the resurrection. So we're close to the resurrection, the time after that great tribulation. That's wonderful. All of that fits easily and beautifully. So that's the story on futurism and famous swamp prophecy of Daniel.
Probably loves Daniel because it's about him and his coming.
Oh, absolutely.
The Son of Man, right?
Absolutely. It's his career.
His favorite title.
How would you like to have a book all about you? Well, you're in there too. You're going to rule the world with Jesus. Let's go to Daniel 7. Go back to 7. And Daniel 7. Marvelous material. Jesus loved this stuff. He's called Son of Man, 88 times or so in the New Testament. It means the human being, the human person.
That's his favorite
Self-title.
designation.
Absolutely. It's as though he's making a point, right? I'm not God. I'm a human being. I'm the Son of Man. That's who I'm. Human person. Keep saying. In verse 9, I saw thrones set up, and the Ancient of Days, the Father, takes a seat, and all of that. And verse 11, I kept looking because of the sound of the boastful words which the horn, that's the political power, was speaking. I kept looking until the beast, that's that same Antichrist, right? The beast was slain, and his body was destroyed and given to the burning fire, thrown in the lake of fire. As to the rest of the beasts, who were along with that one beast, dominions were taken away. But they were given an extension of life inside. I don't know what that means. We'll find out. 13. I kept looking in the night visions. And behold, with the clouds of heaven, one like a son of man. This is Jesus, the Son of Man, who's coming. Came to the fathers, that presumably the ascension, came up to the Ancient Days, was presented before God the Father, and to him were given, here's the kingdom, dominion, glory, and a kingdom, that all peoples, nations, men of every language might serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which will not pass away, and his kingdom is one which will never be destroyed. That makes good sense to you, doesn't it? That's the kingdom of God, right? You feel it, well, that part's where I get it, clearly. Okay, as for me, Daniel, my spirit was distressed within me, verse 17. The vision in my mind kept alarming me. So I approached them and said, what's all this about? 17. These great beasts are four in number, 4 kingdoms which will arise upon the earth. Maybe the same as chapter 2, I'm not sure. There are 4 beasts, and then comes the 5th. But, 18, here's you. But the saints of the highest one will receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, for all ages to pass. That's you. Fear not, little flock, that your father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. That's where you come. Your career is right here. That's you, in 18. Then I desired to know the exact meaning of the 4th beast, final one, the bad one, which was different from all the others, exceedingly dreadful, teeth of iron, claws of bronze, and which devoured, crushed, and trampled. Note that word trampled. I gave you in Zechariah 12 how nations are going to trample the boots, right? The military boots. Trampling, this one is a military power, trampling down the remainder. And the meaning of the 10 horns that were on its head, the other horn which came up forwards, 3 of them fell. That horn had eyes and a mouth uttering great boasts. This is Antichrist himself, the abomination of desolation. Kept looking. That horn was waging war with the saints and overpowering them. Until, that is, the Ancient of Days came, judgment was passed in favor of you guys, saints of the highest one, and the time arrived when the saints took possession of the kingdom. And you're not ruling the world now. That time hasn't arrived yet. Don't try ruling the world, they won't appreciate it. Thus he said, the 4th beast will be a 4th kingdom on earth, be different from the rest. As for the 10 horns out of the kingdom, 10 kings will arise. So you have a tenfold thing at the end, right? You've got this beast character, and he's got 10 rulers with him. That's the final form of the beast power. And another one, that's the really bad guy, the 11th one. And he will be different from the previous ones and subdue 3 of them. He speaks out against the Most High, God, wears the saints out, intends to make changes in times and law, whatever that turns out to be, and the saints will be given into his hand to be persecuted at least for 3.5 years. There's that second half of that final chapter. Time, 3.5 years of bad time. Then here's the key verse, 27. The sovereignty, the dominion, the greatness of the kingdoms under the whole heaven will be given. Sounds like on the earth to me. Under the whole heaven, under the whole heaven, not in there. Be given to the people of the saints of the Most High. Their kingdom, it should read, just take a note there in your Bible if you would, their kingdom will last forever, and all nations will serve with them.
So we will be worn out.
Absolutely. There's a warning, right? Any anti-Christian power, spirit that works with you now against you, now away, right? Yeah, the Antichrist. The devil loves to wear people, where the saints are. Okay, so you got the point. The 70 weeks, you either end it in 33 AD or worse still in 70 AD, or you end it with the destruction of the Antichrist, right? Which actually makes better sense logically. And it's also the view of the earliest so-called church fathers immediately after the New Testament times, the pre-mill people like Irenaeus believed in what I would call classical futurism, right? Now, American dispensationalism, bearing on our topic about Unger early on, the false definition of the gospel, they've made something of a chaos of this by saying that there are 2 second comings, right? They added to this. They didn't like the idea of the church being involved in any way in the Great Tribulation, although I just showed you that Jesus said flee, right? He didn't say go to heaven, he said flee. So you don't have to go through this. In fact, if you're not needing to be tribulated, you are, you've been tested and tried fully. You can be escaping by fleeing to the hills or whatever. But dispensationalism in American form invented another second coming, a so-called pre-trib rapture, by which Jesus would come and resurrect the faithful dead. That's a huge event. It doesn't mention it. That's very important. Take them all to heaven. I think Steve Goldhouse would be of our persuasion. I think so. And I didn't, we didn't talk to each other. It still can be wrong. So I'm not trying to force any view on you, but you see what the options are. And you are the experts, you're the professionals in the business. You should at least be aware. Historicism, the view that I'm not espousing, came mostly from Kashmir in the Church of God, which was a very individualistic group. It was more the system that existed then, incidentally, in those days when the rankings were getting this stuff. That was more or less the popular view. Now the popular view is closer to what I've just given you, but not with the pre-trib rapture, right? That's the bit that, to me, doesn't make any sense. 1 second coming. Doesn't mean you have to go through the Great Tribulation, because Jesus did say to the Philadelphia church group in Revelation 3, because you've been very faithful, I'm not going to put you through this. You can escape, right? In some way. Then Christ comes back at the end and possibly then has the messianic banquet in the wilderness, which might blossom like a rose. Then you march into Jerusalem. I'm not inventing this. This has been around in the Kingdom book that I mentioned, Peter's Kingdom book. Alex Hall, one of our people, did a good essay on this at our site. All of the stuff's at my site. If later on you want, it's all there. You can examine the pros and cons. I just recommend you give it some thought, though, because you are the Navy SEALs. You're the guys who know your stuff, right? And this will make you just even better ministers of the gospel. Okay, so that's it. I want to get that out of the way. 7th week. And the final thought. Right, okay. So the final thoughts. When you come next time, then, you should certainly have read those. I know you've read The Amazing Claim Summons. Try to read the rest of this one. And you've read some of the Our Fathers, and you've read the Kingdom book. You've got that all done. So when you come next time, you should have read part 2 of the, well, you've read all that, I think, but you should have completed that. No, sorry, I'm in the wrong place. April 22nd. Please come having read Aims and Claims, pages 165, 232. That's the rest of the Aims and Claims. It's all kingdom stuff, easy reading for you guys. You say, yeah, I know this. I got this. This is not don't lose this one. If you keep that short studies, I would ask you in this next month to read that slowly. Not very long. Please read that one. It's really brilliant. The guy's got it absolutely nailed. And it's from the Theological Journal. And then, okay, to repeat, if you would please bring a research of some sort. I'd be very happy if you could engage somebody on the blog, as I think, Madison, you did. It was rather shocking, wasn't it? I thought you learned this. It's interesting. It did rather confirm what I said, yes?
Yes.
It's amazing. This is to show you, I mean, you know, Churchill would be the first to say, you're in a battle. You figure out, well, what's the enemy? What am I dealing with? What you're dealing with is a very discouraging, and you mustn't be discouraged, but it's chaos. And you saw, you know, they immediately said, well, gee, stuff, it's not wrong, but you now see it's not the whole story. Okay, that was good. So if you want to engage a blog, there are thousands and thousands of them. You could even go to an XJW blog. There are hundreds of JWs coming out, fading JWs. They belong with you. They don't belong in the Trinitarian system. They belong with you. You are their mentors, teachers, potentially.
Not when it comes to this topic, though.
On prophecy, they're
The
not.
gospel.
Well, no, the gospel, no, but they belong with you in the sense they need to be taught by you. But they are good on the sleep of the dead, right? They believe in a kingdom of some sort. Most of them think they're just going to be, I don't know, pruning the roses or something. It's not good. But they potentially, some of them are going to commit suicide. Some. Their life is gone. Once they say the watchtowers failed, that's it. It's an awful thing. So you're dealing with a real ministry challenge. These are real people like you, aspirations. So the blog, in a way, you know, your field is the internet now, as you have time. You don't have a lot of time. There's a massive folk out there who could really benefit, I think, from what you put down. So either come and preach us up a storm if you want to, or bring us a report of, you know, a research paper. Research paper is alternative to preaching. Either one. And then I'll give you a brief sort of quiz, and you should then be ready to know the 8 kingdom texts in Acts, right? That's taken for granted. You've got to be able to do that. It's like, you know, ask me something different. It's just perfectly obvious to you. You could write a couple of lines of what is the overarching purpose of what we've been aiming at. It's always good to summarize. What is it? What are we doing? What are we aiming at? What are you expecting to do in the kingdom? A couple of verses, not a whole essay, but just some idea. These are all subjects of sermons, by the way. Please preach all of this in church. You people will love it. Then, is justice done to the gospel? If you just ask people to accept Jesus, obviously the answer is no, but just a couple of sentences elaborate on that. What would be your point? 1 Corinthians 15, 1-3. Should be aware of the problem there. What's the deal? What's the wrong deal with quoting 1 Corinthians 15, 1-3 as the summary of the gospel, what Paul spoke about among things of first importance, right? The whole point there. The parable of the sower, should be aware of it. Mark 4, Luke 8, and Matthew 13. Parable of the sower for me is key. I really think Jesus is planting the kingdom. See, in the Old Testament prophecies, God is planting. He's got his plans. He's got his people in mind to fix the world, to rule the world, and get him on that. Jesus comes along, and as Messiah, he sees it as his job to plant you. And you are plants, you're seeds. And you receive the seed. Isn't that clever? The seed is the message of the kingdom, but you become a seed. When you receive the seed, you become a self-propagating seed. Your seed is supposed to produce others. So you are to reproduce the kingdom message in others, having become a seed by receiving the seed. That seems to be. That's brilliant stuff, the parable of sower. So you should be able to comment on that amazing Mark 4, 11 and 12, which says, if they accepted the kingdom, they could repent and be forgiven. That is a staggering statement. It seems to fit logically with the fact that the kingdom is essential to it, right? If, and that's what Jesus said there, if they understood the kingdom, then they could repent and get forgiven. It rather seems to imply in the mind of Messiah that if they don't get the kingdom clear, it's not really possible for them to repent on a biblical basis. You see that point? I mean, that's staggered. Again, we're not going to be carpingly critical of everybody. I don't mean we think, well, something big. I don't mean that. But if you look at the words of Jesus, it's fantastic what he's saying there. Kingdom of God is essential for repentance. You would be asked to give a comment on why is the born again thing not mentioned in Matthew, Mark, and Luke? You know, John is the one everybody knows. Unless a man's born again, can't see the kingdom. The answer is the born again thing is mentioned in the parable of the sower. The analogy is an agricultural one. You got it? It's an agricultural seed, as distinct from biological born again, right? In John, it's the same thing. And to prove that, 1 Peter chapter 1, 22 and following, 1 Peter chapter 1, 22, he puts the seed together with the born again. Let's just do that one quickly, because that is, for me, a fascinating point. 1 Peter, James Peter, 1 Peter 2:22. You have this, 1:22, sorry, correct your, my wrong speech there. 1:22, 1 Peter. This, I think, will scream at you now, and deny what you understand. 1 Peter 1:22. Since you have, in obedience to the truth, right? There's that word obey. Obey. Truth is gospel. In obedience to the truth of the gospel of the kingdom of God. Purified yourselves. You have. You are pure because you believe this. It's a catheterizing effect on you. Then you had, as a result, a sincere, genuine love of the brethren. You do. You have this sense of camaraderie and love for your fellow brothers and sisters. Then love one another fervently from a pure heart. Now explains it. 23. 4. Here's what I mean. You've been born again. That's John 3, isn't it? You've been born again. Past tense. Armstrong used to say you couldn't be born again until the future resurrection. That's false. You have been born again. Not from seed which is perishable, but imperishable. Can you imagine the seed of immortality? Your rebirth depends on you getting that seed of the parable of the sower. That's amazing. Peter had listened to Jesus preach this stuff, you see, and he's writing it down. You've been born again from imperishable seed. That's to say, through the living and enduring word of God, which is the gospel of the kingdom. There again, we're always back to that seed message of the kingdom. Then he quotes the Bible. He says, look, it's what it says in Isaiah. All flesh is like grass. All the glory fades. Grass withers. The flower falls off. Yeah, those daffodils are just about had it in my garden. Gone. Just come and gone. But the word of the Lord, the gospel, endures forever. And this is the word which was gospeled to you, not just preached there in translation. Gospel, preached as gospel. So it all goes back to the gospel of the kingdom, which is the seed, which is the parable. So that is really brilliant stuff, by the way. But I don't think you find that people understand this mechanism well. So your job is to clarify, hopefully. Okay, so that's that one. And then other topics. You should be able to say something about Abraham and something about David, right? Like 2 Samuel 7, the Davidic covenant. Something about Abraham, chapter 12, 15, 17. Covenant made with Abraham. 3 P's, property, progeny, and prosperity. And hopefully you'll take it in the rest of this short story article, which takes you up a level, to a slightly more academic approach. The language is a little heavy, but it makes our point well. overall overarching concept is the two Adams, right? The first Adam failed, the second one succeeded. Jesus is the second Adam. What was Adam created to do? To be the image of God, to be God's co-regent. Jesus models that perfectly. The Son obeys the Father. The Son watches the Father's at his trade and copies it. And the Son represents the Father. That's what a son does, or a daughter. First of all, you obey your mother and father. That's wonderful. What a great thing. Let the one who bore you rejoice. Let her be happy that she bore you. I can think of some places where that's not true. That's a disaster, right? So you love your parents. Your mother is thrilled to have borne you. She went through that process. That's wonderful. Secondly, then, having obeyed mother and father, then you watch parents at the trade. You say, hey, I see what Dad and how he's doing this. That's what Jesus is doing, watching the Father at work. And thirdly, you are the agent of your spiritual father and physical father and mother too. So, as I said often to you, if Madison sends me out of a job, I am Madison, but I'm not Madison. If you can handle that, you've got the whole agency idea. Isn't that beautiful? People are shaliach, one who is sent. Kyle sends me out of a job, talk to me, I'm Kyle. I'm not Kyle. Okay. Huge lesson there. Then these people will never be confused about God the Son, all of that stuff. You've got to untangle 2,000 years of chaos because you want them to have the truth. And the truth sets you free. They're in bondage trying to keep the Sabbath and the holy days, fussing about Paul the truth. You're in the business of giving people freedom and life, right? The words that I speak to, Jesus said, are spirit and life. Wow, they're boring doctrines to argue about. No. That's not the level.
I like this saying in John 5.
Yes, read it for me.
What the Son does is always modeled on what the Father does.
Yes.
For the Father loves the Son.
Mm-hmm.
He shows him everything that he does himself.
That fits
That's
beautifully.
John 5, 19 and 20.
I love
It's
it.
interesting because Jesus acts as the Father with us.
Mhm.
So when he sends out the people, his agents, he says, if they receive you, they receive me, and so on.
I got it.
And he says, because I love you,
Mhm.
I'm giving you everything I have been given in turn. So it's a sort of chain of command.
It's exactly right. That's very good. Yeah, you'll find in Bible studies often the Spirit will lead. Not invariably, but someone will come up with just exactly the right verse you need. So while we're there in John 5, that is beautiful stuff. 5:28, 5:24. Let's see, John 5. We have this. 24. 5:24. I tell you, you can hear the passion Jesus preaches in. Let me tell you this. He who hears my word, and you say, I got it, gospel of the kingdom, but your congregation won't get it unless you explain it. He who hears my gospel of the kingdom and believes him who commissioned me has the life of the age to come. You have it as a down payment. You have it now, right? You have the life of the age to come. You have it. Not just a future thing. I'm making a mistake thinking, I'm nothing now. Wait till the future. No. You already have the germ, the down payment, the first installment, a commercial term, of the Holy Spirit. You have it. You've got the life of the age to come. We could at worst throw it away. I see that. So it's not once saved, always saved, but you got it on this text. And then how does that finish? And does not come into judgment. So you can save yourselves and your congregation. They're beyond the judgment. Isn't that one thing? They're beyond the judgment. Yes, we will be judged and assessed for what we've done. I get that. But you essentially move from death to life by being a baptized Christian. That's 24. 5:24 is absolutely brilliant. What's the one we did yesterday evening on Q&A 6? Was it John 6, the one about he who chooses to believe?
Wills.
Or was it 7?
The one who wills.
Yeah, was it 7:14?
Maybe.
Let's see what that is. 7:17 probably.
So,
Yeah, 7:17. Look at this.
okay.
7:17 of John. If anyone is willing to do his will, he will know of the teaching whether the teaching is from God or whether I'm speaking for myself. Isn't that brilliant? Doesn't sound like Calvin, does it? He who wills. That's your part, right? That's the cooperative part of you, God. That's not Calvin. He who wills. He was willing, but you've got to be willing. I get it. Jesus did all that work. I get it. That part I understand. But don't forget the part that involves
And
you.
the following verse, the man whose teachings come from himself is looking for glory for himself.
Yes.
But he who is looking for the glory of him who sent him, it's an agent.
Absolutely.
So don't act on your own behalf. You're
And run your own show.
You're an agent.
No, exactly. If it isn't to the glory of God, it isn't worth doing. Yeah, that's very good. What was the verse you came up with yesterday about being burned up? That was instructive.
being burnt up.
Yeah, what was that one? John, remember? If any man doesn't bear fruit, what was that one?
Oh, the vine.
Yeah, the vine.
John 15.
Which one? 15, yeah. Go to John 15,
15.
man. This was a very good, not once saved, always
What
saved.
Jesus teaches, he's divine.
15, which verse?
Let's see. Try. Then the 6 from 5 or 6. If anyone does not remain
Yes.
in me, he's thrown
Keep
aside.
reading.
John 15,
15,
6.
6.
If anyone does not remain in me,
Yeah.
he is thrown aside like a branch and he withers.
Mhm.
Then they gather them, throw them into the fire, and they are burned.
Yes.
If you remain in me and my words remain in you, you can ask whatever you want and it will be done.
That's a staggering statement. The condition is interesting, isn't it? That's why we started the class by saying the words of Jesus matter, right? If you remain in the words of Jesus, and only if, then prayer follows from that, successful prayer. And if you don't remain in the words, then you're cast out and burned out. Doesn't sound like universal salvation for everybody to me. But there are people out there arguing.
That's the Baptist way. The Baptist came saying the same thing.
Yeah.
The axis at the...
Yeah. While you've got the Gospel of John open, just go to John 3:36 to reinforce our point. You're going to find it everywhere. John 3:36. You have this beautiful statement, 3:36. And it goes like this. John chapter 3 and 36. He who believes in the Son has, present tense, the life of the age to come. 10 and 12 too. But he who does not obey the Son, that is obedience versus belief. I mean, it's the same thing. There's no obedience without faith. That's critically important. Please preach those things clearly. Make sure you both say, "Wow, I get it." You know. Let them have their aha moments, and then they'll share stuff with their friends. Okay, so final topics then that you could, just write a sentence on also. What do you expect to do in the future kingdom, obviously? And ultimately, final point, is all of this complicated and complex? The answer is no. It was written for ordinary folk, but it has become difficult because of all the nonsense that some of us learn in church. The more I live, the more I think, I get it. Jews, he's talking to fishermen and farmers. Most of them couldn't read, by the way. What percentage, maybe 5-10% could read in those days. They couldn't read stuff. They couldn't read the Hebrew scripture.
Yet they're supposed to understand a 3-in-1 God
Right.
or a
Yes.
different gospel dispensation.
The Trinity would be
It's a long way
completely
from
beyond
that, isn't it?
It's just nonsense. So somehow, you have to develop a frame of mind, you guys, in your business, by which you're standing on a very high position here. It's looking like a bunch of madmen running around there. It's just completely insane. However, you've got to treat it in a very gentle way and see what you can do with the madness. But don't. What was it they said in the election? Hillary said, "When they go low, we go high." I'm not saying that was true or not. Whether she do that well, that's outside what I'm talking about. But don't lower yourself to the nonsense complexity of some of these arguments. They'll come and say, "Well, what about this verse? One verse, wait a minute, but 16,000 verses say that God is one." So you have to find a way of not letting yourself be worn out by the nonsense, because they're going to produce absolute nonsense to you. You have to learn to deal with that in a way that is good ministry, I think.
Well, they've made everything complex out there. When it comes to this topic of the gospel, and you learn other systems like the Jehovah's Witness, where the gospel has become this complex two-class or two-system thing, and you know, it's not it's far away from this original.
It is
gospel.
complicated. Everything divided into two, right? Two natures in Jesus, two second comings, two great tribulations, one in 70 AD. Oh, back to your 80-70. Bill Wattell and I had this discussion for years. He learned the historicist thing. And so he's really stuck, because in Matthew 24, you have, when you see so-and-so, the abomination of desolation, then great tribulation is about to come, right? Supposing you say that's 70 AD. Then you're stuck with verse 29, which says, immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be dark and I'll come back, right? So how are you going to bridge the gap between 70 AD to the end? See, that's impossible. It strikes you as very odd, isn't it? Are you going to say the Great Tribulation has been going on nearly 2,000 years? Hardly, you're smiling, but that system really implies that, because you're stuck with immediately. 24:29 is the crux verse, 24:29. Immediately after the Great Tribulation, it says, the sun will be darkened and they will see the Son of Man coming in power and glory, right? Gather the elect. Immediately after. All right, so AFD is in 70 AD, Great Tribulation. How are we going to get to immediately after? Well, we'll say the Great Tribulation has been going for 2,000 years. You with me? Again, the madhouse. So when we go to Olive Garden, you know, it's my standard joke is this is not the Great Tribulation. This is not the Great Tribulation. You see this massive food, right? The Great Tribulation is a time when it's very tough for pregnant women. It's not a period of 2,000 years. See? The point here, I think, would be to listen. Our own people can be very wrong on some doctrines. You can get a whole lot right. I mean, take the Christadelphians. I'm assuming you probably do believe in an external Satan, you guys, don't you? Or do you think that I'm Satan? Yes. You probably don't. You know how wacko that seems to be about that? I mean, totally wacko. You can be right, and you can still have areas where you need to examine. Because you need, get the truth right as far as you can. I can get away with probably saying that now, but 25 years ago, there would have been tremendous complaints about my being at the college when I said that. I'll get him out of there. He dared to say that there's an external devil. Someone in Oregon didn't believe there was a devil. That, to me, is completely wacko. I mean, it's just, it's just mad. But along with these other truths, you see yourself, so you can be very right and still have some stupid thing in your head. I don't think you guys do. Anybody you teach, by the way, is pretty imperfect. You have an inbuilt love of your own children spiritually. People you teach. My wife would tell you, I go and I say, these people are amazing. They're just incredible. Because for me, you're the new blood of the future generation. And the movement depends on you guys. Why you should keep in touch with Keegan Chandler, build some good relationship with him. He's fine. Sean Finnegan, keep in touch, because you are the fiber of this new generation. Okay, so that's all I wanted to do today. I think we've covered that stuff. Any comments? You want to shout it all down, say you're all wrong.
Your narrow hips are gonna burn in hell, Anthony.
Yeah, narrow hips are gonna burn in hell. You can say it now, smile. Practice what you preach. Actually, I think it's very funny, that. I think that is quite funny. I mean, I just love it. Whoa. I've had some very nice letters too. I haven't read those out to you. The Roman Catholic priest with 3 PhDs who said, Anthony, what you're doing in your magazine, I wish the whole of my Roman Catholic Church could hear this. He said, you're addressing issues which are fundamentally important, and I wish that the whole Roman Catholic tradition should listen to what you're doing. And my professor at Bethany said, the more I'm hearing about what your church teaches, he means this, right? The more I think this is absolutely right. That was my professor of peace studies at Bethany. So, you live to the encouragement thing. On the whole, it's very positive. Okay. Who's roommate with some of these people who weren't here today? Are you?
Yeah,
Stefan.
we're roommates.
What are we going to do? What's happened to Stefan?
We went back to that lunch meal.
Can I suggest, since
Yeah.
we didn't open with the Shema, can I suggest we close the
Absolutely.
Shema?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're
Close
gonna-
with the Shema. I'm giving you 15 minutes for being such great people. Right? 15 minutes better. So the Shema, we do it in church now. We don't have one with us, do we? I make them at home.
No.
You've seen these Jesus signs that look like they aren't Jesus. Have you seen them? Little bits of wood on a darker background, and you have to look twice to make it's an illusion. It doesn't look like it. You've seen that. So I did the same with the Shemas. I made a lot of them. I bring next time. I'll bring them. Anyway, the Shema it goes like this: Shema Yisrael, Yisrael, Adonai or Yahweh, the man, Adonai Eloheinu, our God, Adonai Echad. Listen, Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, one person, one Yahweh, the man. So in Hebrew, again, Shema, this is Shema, that's the command form of the Hebrew word to listen. Pay attention, Shema, Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, our God, Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. I'll write it for the board, my parting shot to you for today. I'll see you next time. Goes like this. Shema would be Shema, something like that. Yisrael, Yisrael, Adonai or Yahweh, whatever you choose, doesn't matter. Adonai, and then this would be Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. ECH, not Echad, please, not Echad, but Echad. This is what Jews died for. You know the stories of Rabbi Akiva, who was persecuted for his faith. He died at 3 o'clock in the afternoon with the words Echad on his lips. This is a fact. Echad died. This is life or death. The one doctrine you mustn't get wrong is your definition of God. That's why Israel went to captivity. Listen, Israel. And these dear people stumbled on this, came across this. It's amazing, actually. Quite amazing. And there are lots of folk out there who would love to have you travel. I mean, down the line, send you to wherever. And you can do all of this stuff. All of it. They want more. Go to Peru and say, oh, Lord, this verse. Explain this one. You know, they want to hear Bible, 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 Bible. Just don't only go and do handicrafts. I mean, that's fine too. But you don't need to just do handicrafts. You can teach them the Bible. They want that. Go to Africa, go to India. I haven't been to India. You should go to India. Hop on a plane. Go to India. You've got all these people who think America, and it's right. I mean, America is the center of everything in a way, so. Huge future. And if you prepare yourself, get trained now, and you're getting trained, and you'll be welcome.
And at one time, the church banned the Shema.
The church, the Orthodox Church, banned the Shema. Isn't that horrible? They banned Jesus.
And in a sense, I could argue it's still banned to this day.
They don't recite it. The church fathers' final thought would be this. The real church fathers are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This system has really turned the church fathers, you know, the post-biblical so-called church fathers, they made them into a pope. They're treating those creeds as infallible. That's scary, actually. So you can get kicked out easily if you challenge the pope, which is the creed.